Do you hear me well from this distance? Okay.
Just like water streams, ideas can flow across long distances. And while we can't travel these days, I decided to start my virtual personal music journey that brought me to the land of fire, Chile, where I met one of my favorite artists of all times, the legend of Foltronica, Mr. Dara. This is Adari, and you're listening to Deep Inspiration. So it's the first time that I interview someone, actually. So this is a first experience for me, and it's the first time that we gonna do this show. So I'm really excited about it, and I'm really excited that I'm doing this with Derrock because with you, because it's probably one of the artists that I've been following from the beginning that I started to listen this kind of music. I came across the Quinto Fuego first EP a few months ago, and I got in touch with you, and we started to think about doing this as a you offer yourself to help me on this, and very grateful about it. So the first thing I would like to ask you is, what is Quinto Fuego? How did this born and came to your mind, and how you are developing these ideas with the other people of the crew?
Well, first of all, thanks a lot for this opportunity to talk about this project. Quinto Fuego was born with the idea of supporting new artists, supporting emerging artists that they don't know much about how to start their career. So I think that I got the experience to guide them. So I started Quinto Fuego first doing parties, little events, so they can play. For example, at the beginning, these guys told me like, hey, I want to play in the party, and I'm going to play for free. And I told them that that's not the idea. You're playing, you're working basically. You're giving something from yourself, so you need some retribution that is not going to be beer. So you're going to play and I'm going to pay you, and that's how you have to do it. And that was the first step, doing parties, and then making this label was to support these same people to release their music, to show them how they have to release it. That is not like you give your music to some random guy and that's it. It's more than that. So is my little project to support new artists, and now we're making community between these artists. So actually there's no owner from this. We are a whole group doing this, and it's very beautiful.
It's amazing, I think, and I think what you mentioned about young people, or even not young, but just people that started to produce music and DJing and so on. They often do these mistakes, right? I actually did myself, going searching for a club to play and offer yourself to play for free, and that's really devaluating the passion that you put into that, right? So I think it's amazing what you're doing, like being a bit of the shaman of this artist, and show them the path how to get at some point with the music.
Yeah, it happened the same for me when I start. I play for free sometimes. Then, I got this. My first experiences playing was with Madanza. The guys from Madanza invited me to play, and I thought that it was going to be for free. I didn't know that you can make some money with music. So the first party I went, I played, and then the next day, Vicente from Madanza text me and he say, "Hey, let's meet in the subway. I'm going to give you your fee." I wasn't expecting that, but I learned that that's the way you do it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you don't do that, you can never evolve because you are stuck into that beginner phase and stage, and you don't realize that you can actually support your own music and making more time for your music because you make it sustainable, right? And I think it's a very let's say relevant topic for these times where artists are they can't go to play around, they really need to find some ways. And the risk of this is that music doesn't become sustainable and then art can't develop. And that's it's actually one of the reasons why we're doing this show as well, right? So my idea was to try to do something to support artists that they are honestly in a difficult situation without gigs going on. um, and I think in my little world I try to do my best to help friends and other artists that are in this situation. So on the journey that you're doing in Quinto Fuego, you're meeting a lot of new talents, and I would like to know what are you doing with these talents now. I know that the EP of Quinto Fuego is one of those things. I've seen that you're running some other parties, little parties as well, when possible, when restrictions are not too tight. But how do you work with the talents, and how do you make them evolve also from the technical production side and so on?
Well, from the music, we've been working together because we live in the same place. We live in Pugon. So, for example, making the first compilation, which was Tierra de Volcanes. Brava, she wasn't. She doesn't have the knowledge that I have and that, for example, Nintu has. So she went to my house, she went to Nintu's house, and we started teaching her how to mix, how to make her sound be good. And so the first experience from this was a lot of sharing knowledge between us. So that this work was really was a great work. Was well, the final result was a good compilation with good sound and all that made between the four of us, not just one guy or because of the talent of each artist. It was shared. And for the new releases, it's the same. For example, for the first EP of Brava, now Magumba, um, there was a lot of teaching for her from me and from Nintu, and also from Vincent, Orgánica Elemental. We were sharing her videos, YouTube, people showing them how to mix well, how to record your sound, how to whatever. And that's like we're sharing knowledge that's a way that the new artist can grow, and that also I am growing because I'm learning a lot from them too, and about doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing to have someone like you or like Nintu, like really helping the newbies to become good at production. I started to produce myself very recently, and if I wouldn't have one of my friends, which is also a quite known artist, he really transferred me a lot, and it's amazing to have this kind of support because you can't really learn things. I mean, I would take probably a way more time to learn a lot of things that I learned in the past few weeks that I'm working with him. So um, I think so. This program, as I mentioned to you, is really about inspiration, and I think what we have just said is super inspiring for so many people out there. And the other part of the inspiration, which I'm really interested to know about, is how do you find inspiration for your music? What are the things that you're looking for in your life, and how that can become then the music that you give life to?
That's a really complex question because there are many things going on around, and all of them are working on what you do. But basically, it's just having an idea of what when I'm going to sit and make a song, make music. I have an idea of what I want to do. Like, for example, if I only want to make music but I don't have an idea, I start working and later I'm going to listen to this song and it's going to be rubbish. So I first need an idea, and that idea comes from how I'm feeling someday, or if I go to the nature, what I'm feeling there, what I'm seeing, which birds I'm listening to, which rhythm I feel when I'm walking on the hills, on the mountains, and all that. Then I go home and I start music from that. The music comes from all that thing. That for my music, for the rock, because it has a line that I'm following. Like, for example, if I'm angry and I go to the city and go to the subway, I maybe wanna make heavy metal, but it's not what my project is. So
Of course. I mean, the music you do is definitely in some way transferring those feeling of nature, of being in the with fresh air around. Let's say is definitely one of the definition that I would give to your kind of music. And one question is more about this kind of music, indeed, right? Because it's I think it's a wave of music which take their roots in many different styles that were in the past, but it's becoming bigger and bigger in these latest 2 or 3 years, I think, becoming more and more global, which I find amazing because I listened to this, I think, from about 5 years or 6 years or so. And now it's like really getting everywhere. You can listen to this music pretty much everywhere. And people that you would never say, oh yeah, I know these artists, I know Derek, I know Nicola Cruz, I know Quinto Fuego, I know Ben Svensden, I don't know. It's not so. It's becoming more common to find people like listening to the music. So I wanted to ask you, in your specific personal experience, what is the journey that you have done in terms of style of music, and how did you get here?
well, my journey comes from when I was at school. There, I used to have bands, rock bands, where I playing almost metal, and I was playing the electric guitar. And then I entered the university. My friends didn't want to make more music, or they were good making covers and not original songs. So I look in the internet how I can make music by myself. That was electronic music, and I never I never listened to electronic music before. So I started an investigation at that time. That was like 10 years ago or more, 12, and I started listening to trance music. That was the music at that time. And I fell in love with how you can make a lot of sounds, a lot of atmosphere, only using a computer now that we have good computers. and little elements. So I start playing with my computer, making music, and then I listened. I don't know. I forgot how I get into, but I get into Matanza, and they blew my head. Like you can mix a lot of rhythm and music stuff, like happens in every kind of music. For example, in rock, you can mix also folklore with rock, like some bands do, or symphonic with rock or whatever. Electronic music happens the same, but the guys who showed me that this can be possible was Madanza.
It's
Then
sorry.
yeah.
I was just saying that it's funny because I also started to listen to this music because of Matanza. Because I was living in London at that time, and some of my friends told me that there was this band going to play in a club in Shoreditch in London, and I said, okay, let's go. And then at that time, I was also listening a lot of psytrance.
Uh-huh.
And then I went there and I listened to Matanza, and I was like, what is this stuff? I mean, I absolutely need to go and dig more into this stuff because it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I fell in love with that because it was how you can mix the music you're doing with some identity from your place, from in this place from Chile. That we have a lot of folklore, a lot of music. For example, Matanza started playing some electronic beats with some flute from Victor Jara or other artists. So that's where it made me like that's it. I want to make that. That's what I'm feeling. That I had to make something original by myself, not deep house, not techno that already exists, and I'm going to be just one more copy of that. And at
Yeah,
that
I think
time, there wasn't much music from this kind. So actually, I only knew Madanza and no, and nobody else.
Yeah, it was a way more niche than now. It's still a niche, we can say, definitely. But I mean, it's not so long that this stuff is around. I think as well. The artists were really a few at that time. I mean, I told you I think it was 5 or 6 years ago that I started to listen, and I think was not at the beginning, but almost. I mean, there was it wasn't big at all at that time. But the other question that I wanted to tell you is, so you mentioned about I don't want to be a copy of the new techno thing or the new deep house thing or whatever, and I think that's really relevant because this kind of music, which I don't know, we can call it global beats or world electronic music. I mean, there are probably many titles that we can give to this genre. But the cool thing is exactly that is a crossover in everything, not just in terms of melodies where you have folklore with the electronic sounds and so on, but also in terms of rhythms. There are so many rhythms, and going to an event with this kind of music is so nice because the dance floor is always changing and there is an atmosphere changing for every song.
Yeah, it's really open to any kind of electronic music to mix it with some world music or some elements from organic sounds because it's basically organic sounds like tribal drums, ethnic winds, or charango. From Asia, you have the sitar. There's also a lot of down tempo or this kind of music with sitar and stuff, not from Latin America but from Asia. Um, so it's really interesting because there is not one line about how is this music. There is a lot of there is a lot of stuff going on. So that's what make it that there's not a single type for this music. there is no tag. There are many names, but there is not one official.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are no rules as well, right?
Yeah.
So you can really experiment a lot.
So we talked about inspirations in terms of behavior. We talked about inspirations in terms of where do we get the ideas and how do we transform it to music. And now I would like to go to another point, which is being a bit more specific. So let's say, let's talk about, for example, your last track in the Quinto Fuego EP, and thinking about what are the other artists, the other sounds and tracks that inspired you for that specific one. Is there anything like that? Or maybe something coming from a feeling or a story that, as you told me before.
What I made in my last track for Quinto Fuego, which was the one where the last original track was from the compilation, Tierra de Volcanes, which was I wanted to make how I feel in the Quinto Fuego parties. I wanted to make that music. So I use a lot of bass sounds, like heavy sounds, and really intense stuff, because the parties are like that. They are intense, but they're also kind and friendly, with a lot of organic stuff around. With organic stuff, literally, because we make the parties in nature, outside, outdoor. So that song particularly is what I feel from the Quinto Fuego experiences that I had before doing that.
Nice. And in terms of artists that you get inspired from, you mentioned for sure Matanza, which is one. And do you have any artist, maybe also from other styles, that you are particularly impacted by, influenced by? And if they do, so I think the closure of this first session will be actually listening to one of the tracks that you would recommend to us for inspiration.
Yeah, for example, and it's not an example, it's a fact. Here in Chile, there is a big band which is called Los Jaivas, and that one is really old. It's from the 70s, and the whole life I've been listening to them, because they sound in the radio, they sound on TV. I watch them playing live, and they are very familiar with the citizens here, with people. And the relevance about them is that they mix rock, psychedelic rock, with folklore. So it's like what we're doing with electronic music, but they already made that with rock music. And they were an inspiration for me also for doing this, for knowing that it's possible to mix some different styles together and make something new.
Mira, niñita, y te voy a llevar a ver la luna brillando en el mar. Mira hacia el cielo y olvida ese lánguido temor que fue permanente emoción. Ay, fue permanente emoción. Para la hija de un hombre con ojos de cristal y papel sellado en la piel. papel sellado en la piel.
So we're back here after having listening to Los Caivas, Mi Reninita, from the album La Ventana Blue. And I apologize for my Spanish. I don't speak very good Spanish, to be honest. But so please forgive me if I mention something wrong. So in the meantime, we talked about songs that inspired us, and there is another one which actually really struck me when you sent me, which was Tool Triad. That I didn't know the song. I know Tool, but I didn't know this specific song, and I found it really interesting. So before to listen to this one, I just wanted to hear your point of view on the song and why it was an inspiration for you. What did you find particularly cool in the song that inspired you?
Yeah, well, the whole Tool catalog drives me crazy. I love Tool. I listened to them from when I was a kid. It's very interesting for me how they make music to make you think, to make you analyze how the progression is going, how they change the times. That is not only making music for people just to listen, it's a lot of more from that, more deep, and there are a lot of stuff going on in their music, like talking about the third eye, about the spiral, about many things, about question authority. So I love them. And this particular song has some relation with electronic music because it comes from repetitive patterns. Repetitive patterns. It loops and loops about the band playing, but playing loops. And it's starting growing and growing and growing, and it's like a good progression, just like an electronic song that most of them are also very progressive. Well, in this track they make, I don't know which instrument they use, but they use a flute or something that has a little overdrive and sounds insane. I like that sound. I like the whole song. It's maybe my favorite from Tool.
So we're back from the last listening of the tool, and I think we have one more song to listen. We talked about them a lot during this first episode of the show, and the last track that you shared with me was Matanza, Puya.
Is that correct how I say it?
Yes, it's Puya.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Pretty much same question of before. So what did you see in this track? I think you already told me about the story of how you know Matanza and how you like them. But for this specific song, I was interested to understand what are the elements that touch you the most and gave you the most of inspiration for your own music.
I don't know which was the first song I listened from these guys, but probably it's Puya or another one from that EP, because that song is from 2010. Maybe one of the first tracks made with these mixing elements with electronic and folk music. I like a lot how they make the drums, all the percussions going into a tribal vibe, and using the wind instruments also to give it some ethnic sound and giving it some air. And also how they go between this electronic music to the roots, to the roots of this land, which is folklore. So that's maybe one of the most important songs for me from them, from Matanza.
I just wanted to thank you so much, Derek, for today's chat. I don't like to think about this as an interview, but more like a chat where we share, where we learn about music.
Yeah, well, thank you for giving me this space to talk about my musical project, about Quinto Fuego, about all the music surrounding our little universe of music. Um, I really hope that the people listening to this can enjoy knowing a little more from this music, from what we're doing here in Chile, and especially in Pugon with Quinto Fuego, and the importance of supporting your local artists.
Absolutely. And maybe one more thing I wanted to ask you by curiosity is, do you have anything, any news, anything planning that is coming, is baking, and we should know about?
Yeah. We're building now the schedule for Quinto Fuego. There's going to be a second compilation, the second volume of Tierra de Volcanes. Where there is an album, the first album from Quinto Fuego also coming soon, really soon. For me, as The Rock, I want to make an album, like using the feelings that I have in Pugon and living now in the south of Chile. But I don't like to talk about much the projects because I feel that when I talk about them, the energy goes out and sometimes they don't appear. So
Perfect. So we don't talk about that then. We don't want to risk not having a new album from you, absolutely. And thank you very much for everyone that have listened and joined us into this conversation. I hope this is going to be the first of many with Derek and with all the other artists of this new wave coming into the electronic music. And I hope you enjoy. Subscribe to the channel, like. Anyway, so everything that every YouTuber say to do to you at the end of the video, do it. And and thank you very much, everyone. Bye.